Hello, thanks for sticking around. We are back to coverage of MCQ in Szczecin at Paprika's Open 9. Um, we are going to see round number 3 of our Swiss portion of the tournament. We are playing standard. After the Swiss, we are going to have a top 8, and the winner of that top 8 will get the chance to go to Barcelona.
We play in the Mythic Championship
Indeed.
in Modern.
In Modern, which might be shaken up a little in July.
True. The draft format is also Modern Horizons draft.
So that is very interesting, very interesting. You can get the chance to play Modern Horizons, I think, in Copenhagen. There is the GP, which is like the pre-release GP of that set. It's going to be Modern Horizons Limited, so might get the chance to do that. Some nice new cards getting spoiled. The cycle of Horizon Canopy lands, quite nice, and also like a new wasteland.
It's probably going to shake up, to change up some things in the format for sure. I'm especially interested in trying multiple decks with Urza, Lord High Artificer.
Yes, it seems a little crazy and kind of your style.
Yeah,
Like to tinker with those.
Yeah, somewhat reminiscent of KCI. Sharing a creature type with Psy, Master Thopterist, and Goblin Engineer. So you can just play your Cavern of Souls, name Artificer.
Goblin Engineer is the card that you previewed, right?
Indeed. The Artifact Entomb.
That is.
Urza also combines really well with Sword of the Meek / Thopter Foundry combo. Goblin Engineer would allow you to not run many swords, which was always a pain in those decks, so kind of interesting to see what's happening there.
Alright, and in this round we are in for a treat. Paweł Bujanowicz versus Szymon Wiaderny, also known as Wadro. Buja and Wadro. These two guys are pretty well known in the Polish Magic scene. Wadro was playing the MCQ weekend yesterday on Magic Arena. Did not get to the top 8 on Breakers. So let's see what they're playing, since we did get the deck lists this time. Wadro is playing Commander Dreadhorde.
It is indeed a mirror match between two Command the Dreadhorde, 4-color Command the Dreadhorde decks facing off against each other. The mirror match is typically going to be decided by who gets to command the Dreadhorde first and is able to reanimate a whole swath of Wildgrowth Walkers and Planeswalkers. Given that it targets both graveyards, the first player just steals most of the targets that are available for the other players to reanimate. They are left with, even if they have their own commanding Dreadhorde, they're left with a pretty low amount of choices.
So it's going to be very interesting how it plays out, because this mirror match plays out on many different axes. So first you have to maintain your life total quite high, because these decks can go pretty aggro. I mean, if you grow a fast Wildgrowth Walker and have nothing to do with it, then you can go pretty low against your opponent. Then there is Teferi, also bouncing creatures, but you don't really want to give your creatures the chance, give your opponents the chance to explore again, find those lands they need to command the Dreadhorde. And then there is Tamiyo, who can, of course, fill up your graveyard, but then what if your opponent gets to use that graveyard? So there are a lot of things that come into play here.
Yeah. Like, this is going to be mostly game one. It's going to be mostly a traction-based matchup. I would guess it's probably going to be really hard for one player to aggro down the other one, given the presence of all the Planeswalkers slowing the game down, Interplanar Beacon gaining extra life points and making aggression less of a tool. So probably one of the players is going to go over the top of the other one with Command the Dreadhorde sooner or later. Post-board, some extra interaction dynamics are going to be introduced. Mainly the Elder spell being pretty key here, allowing for some huge swings, making just resolving Command the Dreadhorde somewhat of a risky move, given that your opponent can respond by playing a Planeswalker and using the other spell to ultimate this Planeswalker immediately.
All right.
Yeah, Paweł Bojanovic and Szymon Wiaderny, two of somewhat popular and well-known players in the Polish Magic the Gathering community. Szymon, I believe, a one-time Pro Tour, or I guess Mythic Championship. Back then it was still called a Pro Tour competitor. Paweł Bojanovic, no accolades of this type for him, I believe.
Not yet. It might change today.
Of course.
So Paweł going with the Wildgrowth Walker turn 1, turn 2, sorry. Vadro doing exactly the same thing.
Notably, we see that Paweł has a Assassin's Trophy. Those decks are typically pretty light on basics. If we look at Szymon's deck list, we actually are able to see that
He does run one swamp.
he does actually run two basics. He was scared enough of the Japanese
Ponza
land
deck.
destruction deck list that debuted in last week of the weekly MPL play to add a basic.
So Paweł without a third land? Or yeah, without the third
Paweł has
land.
missed a land drop, just played a Wildgrowth Walker into passing a turn.
Yeah, and to his terror, the Assassin's Trophy did find a basic for Szymon, so
Is it a basic forest?
yeah,
I see no trees in the artwork. That confuses me.
it's a great forest. I love it. It's white bordered, there are no trees in the art. It's beautiful.
I am a little bit colorblind, like not really, but to an extent where I actually have trouble seeing whether this land is a plains or a forest. So the fact that there's no trees in the artwork really confuses me. Yeah, Paweł is missing more land drops. Hitting land drops is extremely important, so keeping just two of them was somewhat of a precarious move.
Now let's see if Paweł is running any basics in his deck. The answer is no. So the Assassin's Trophy on his side, on Szymon's side, is just straight up a kill spell.
Well, of course, Szymon does not necessarily know that,
No, he does not. Of course, he does not.
and firing it off preemptively on a land is not something that you really want to risk for if you don't know. At this point, I don't know if Szymon has a Commanding Dreadhorn at the ready, but he just decides to keep an extra Jailite Ranger, which seems reasonable given that Paweł is struggling with Mana Screw. This is actually one of the games where Szymon is going to be able to put reasonable pressure on Paweł, and Jailite takes you deeper towards your extra lands anyways.
I believe our life totals should be updated just a little bit. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Szymon is going to get you 1 bajillion life points, roughly speaking.
And gems in for a cool 10 or 9. Nice. So that was a very quick game, unfortunately decided by mana woes on Paweł's side. Well, risky keep, did not pay off. So now we are going to sideboards.
Yeah, it didn't take Command the Dreadhorde to go over the top of the other player this game. I was not correct in my predictions.
Okay, so let's take a look what they are working with. So Szymon
Shimon has a 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke that he could potentially bring in. Playing with counter spells is kind of precarious, especially with Disdainful Stroke nowadays, given that Disdainful Stroke does not counter the Fairy Time Raveler, but it still gets stopped by it. That means that it's kind of a dangerous card to bring, since the Fairy can protect Commandy Dreadhorde from getting countered by it. At the same time, though, it's not, it's not entirely a given that you are going to have a luxury of playing around a counterspell and this matchup that needs you to go fast and resolve your own Dreadhorde before your opponent resolves their command Dreadhorde. So that will potentially warrant some Disdainful Stroke for Shimon. Other than that, he has some copies of different cards, 2 Narset, Parter of Whales, 2 copies of the Elder Spell, 2 Cast Down, 3 Duress, 1 Ritual of Soot, 1 Cryotic Ornarium, 2 Hostage Taker. Definitely the Elder Spell is coming in as a big tool that can swing the matchup, but probably not super interested in other tools that he has in his sideboard. For Pavel it's similar, 2 copies of the Elder Spell.
3 Duress, a Massacre Girl. That is a pretty nice tool.
Well, Massacre Girl is a fine card, but not necessarily a card that swings the matchup heavily, or actually changes it by much. Given that Planeswalkers are more key than creatures, because the creatures are kinda replaceable, as in, both players have access to the same creatures that they are going to trade off against each other, most likely. The most notable thing is that Pavel has no counter spells at all in his sideboard. So even if he would be interested in that, he's not going to be able to fight on that axis. He might be interested in bringing in a Duress or of a few copies of Duress to fight against Shimon's Commandy Dreadhorde, or maybe just keep that axis of interaction entirely and just focus on executing his game plan the fastest that he can. Yeah, we see the Duress is left in the sideboard, boarding out Sauron's Bloodlords. Sauron not the most exciting card in this matchup. Pinging down some Planeswalkers after they activate their minus abilities is a fairly powerful mode, because notably both Vraska, Golgari Queen and the Fairy Time Raveler are left with just 1 point of loyalty after they come down and use their minus ability, but that's about the maximum potential use that you can get from Sauron in this matchup.
Any consideration for bringing in Narset from the board?
There's not too many effects that say draw a card, so she's not stopping that many cards with her static ability. If you are on the play, you might consider that, but I think it's more interesting to. These decks are more interested in bringing in Narset in matchups where her ability actually shines.
I was thinking like maybe trying to dig towards your Commander Dreadhorde a bit sooner.
It is nice at enabling that. That is true.
Narset is good against crosses.
It is true, but those versions of Commandy Dreadhorde do not typically run crosses. Having access to both players' decklists, we also can tell you for sure that they are not playing those. It is possible to believe that a player believes that they need to be ready against Hydrate crashes and then boards Narset into that, but not my guess in the dark. Both players kept 7s. Pavel seems like a pretty land heavy one.
Shimon as well. Although Shimon has an Elder Spell in hand, so he's ready for early Planeswalkers.
Yeah, a land heavy hand is probably a desirable thing in this matchup. You really want to make your land drops as opposed to skipping them. We have seen that Pavel skipped his land drops, then lost the game. You know, easily using the logic, using facts and logic, you can see that how it led there.
Okay, Hostage Taker revealed off the top. That is a
Yeah.
great.
Great tool to stabilize from this Mefok Branchwalker that pounds for 2 points per turn.
That is a massive amount of damage.
Yeah, like this was a sideboarded Hostage Taker. It seems like Shimon was interested in trying to grind a little bit more.
So I guess we are going to see that Hostage Taker take hostage the Branchwalker.
It's a possible move for Shimon. I don't entirely see all of the cards in his hand, given the extremely quick motions of his hands. What sticks out like a sore thumb, though, is the beautiful white border of this forest/forest.
So just a Wild Growth Walker for the turn. Yes, indeed, Pavel missed the land trigger, because the Interplanar Beacon gives you a life every time a Planeswalker enters the battlefield. So
Pavel sacrificing his Mefok Branchwalker to draw a card off of Vraska.
and gain a life.
Yes, using Vraska to fuel his Command Dreadhorde that he has in his hand available right now.
He's also going to play a Teferi, Time Raveler, I think, because he does have one in his hand.
The Teferi bounce your Wild Walker seems like a potent move. Draw an
So
extra
another
card,
draw.
try to fill it a little bit more. Pavel indeed decided to bring in Narset as an extra tool to find Command Dreadhordes, get to those faster. With 2 Planeswalkers on the battlefield, Shimon can start to consider Elder Spelling. Preferably you would have a Planeswalker on the battlefield on his own at first, but does not have such a luxury. As it is, Shimon tapped 2 mana for the Elder Spell to kill 2 of Pavel's Planeswalkers, but Pavel can very easily...
Dreadhorde them back.
Yes.
And
command
that's what
the
is going to
Dreadhorde,
happen.
Clear the graveyards, make...
That's
make
6 and 12 mana worth of stuff.
yeah. It makes Shimon's Command Dreadhorde not too great either.
12 mana worth of stuff. There is no Wild Growth Walker, so these export triggers will not give Pavel any life back, but the advantage on the board is very, very significant.
Yeah. Pavel can actually just try to keep those cards on the top of his deck, trying to avoid putting any cards into his graveyard to not enable Shimon's Command Dreadhorde at all. He kills the Wild Growth Walker, but reanimating the lone Wild Growth Walker is not going to be a problem. If you can get a Vraska Golgari Queen with, in addition to that, it's a little bit better, so it's understandable.
Yeah, 6 mana 1/3 is really not what you're looking for.
6 mana, pay 2 life, 1/3.
Yep. That is a very measly rate.
Shimon steals a Jailite Ranger. Notably, it's his own Jailite Ranger, so now if Hostage Taker dies,
It will come back under
it will
his
come back
control.
under his control. He had the option of stealing the Branchwalker, but then Pavel would probably... stealing and replaying, but then Pavel would probably play the Branchwalker... bounce the Branchwalker and replay it immediately. It's kind of hard to come back from this swing, though. Shimon would need to trade off a bunch of cards with Pavel and then cast an extra Dreadhorde first. It's not gonna be easy. This can get real messy real soon if Pavel doesn't win soon, I guess. But the initiative for works really well for Pavel.
Narset's going to be the first step in the turn, digging into 4 cards, able to take a non-land card among them.
Yeah, Pavel is probably looking for cards that answer planeswalkers just in case to be safe. So the other spell is probably his perfect hit.
Assassin's Trophy isn't too bad either.
Yeah, it isn't too bad either. Just making land drops and progressing now while trying to avoid putting insane amounts of creatures and planeswalkers into the graveyards is probably a reasonable game plan.
Seventh land drop for Pavel.
Like,
6 cards
it's
in hand.
pretty interesting because Pavel would kinda want to play Tamio here, but if you play Tamio, you really don't want to just
Plus it.
plus it, yeah, because that puts a lot of cards into your graveyard. Presenting other planeswalkers that are going to easily die is also not putting that much action. Not also, it's also kind of a dangerous proposition. Trading of creatures is a dangerous proposition. It's interesting, but like one of the best moves for Pavel is to not try not to do anything.
So exactly what you described happened. Jade Light Ranger came back under control of Shimon, and Pavel was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah. Some confusion here. Can get a little bit confusing with those ownership rules. He's going to sacrifice his Teferi to draw an extra card, gain a point of life. Now those two planeswalkers are facing a free-player creature that's ready to kill one of them, so Pavel needs to perform a game action to make them live. Can play an extra Teferi, can play an extra Vraska.
Gained some life thanks to the interplanar beacon.
Yes. Those entire sequence actually made Pavel put a
Ton of permanents in the graveyard.
Yeah, a whole bunch of permanents in the graveyard. There's still a Wildgrowth Walker in addition to Jade Light Ranger in the graveyard, so Vadra is able to hit with a Commanding Dreadhorn had he had it in his hand. There's no Commanding Dreadhorn.
Oh my. He just played his Teferi, Elder spelled 2 Planeswalkers.
Yeah, and gets to emblem his Teferi.
Teferi immediately.
It's a very strong sequence.
It's not game over.
It's
not by any means.
Yeah, it's not game over. That is because easily players can overwhelm the Teferi emblem by commanding the Dreadhorde, but definitely the onus is on Pavel now to win the game with a lifestyle that's not entirely all that high. He cannot just start stealing cards willy-nilly.
So suddenly we have a very, very interesting game going on. Yes, that is a play that I would describe as these.
Shimon is looking to avoid Command the Dreadhorde potentially. Pavel goes for Wildgrowth Walker and then
Command the Dreadhorde.
Command the Dreadhorde. With 13 life points, he can put a hefty amount of permanents. Spending 5 life points on those 2 explore creatures. It's going to regain 12 life points anyway, so you can just go full ham. That means
So now he
as
has
far as again
yeah. So now he has 7 more mana that he can take
life.
from the graveyard.
Yeah, yeah, seven more points of mana costs worth.
With this Teferi it would be 9.
Yeah, it's interesting. Can I take Narset, Teferi, Vraska, Golgari Queen? Both have upsides and downsides. You really want a lot of creatures. There's no more creatures to take though, so you cannot take Hero of Dominaria unless you don't take any other Planeswalkers. Hero of Dominaria allows you to draw a card on tap 2 lands, be ready with your Assassin's Trophy to be able to perform some game actions. So that is a card that Pavel is holding.
Pavel takes 11 damage, gains back 12 life, so he goes to 14 in this exchange.
Yep. Jailer Ranger resolves. The Explorer Trigger resolves, I mean. Vraska, Queen of Golgari. Probably not the card that Pavel is super excited to see at this very moment, so we might see getting that pinned. It is action though, so
this might look bad for look bad for Shimon, but let's remember he has a hostage taker in his hand. He can get rid of one of these threats by just exiling it in the draw step. So it's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah, he can certainly fight back. What Shimon is looking for is a Commandy Dreadhorde himself. He's going to 11 life after getting hit with that Melfog Branchwalker. Right now, that means that he would be able to get, for example, 2 Teferis. That's 2 extra draw triggers that exiles 2 more permanents. Keep in mind though that Narset is stopping extra draws, so that would need to be dealt with at first. Yeah, Shimon drawing a card, triggering his Teferi emblem, choosing a target for it. It's pretty important to choose correctly. Notably, the emblem exiles card, so it makes it harder to assemble an extra Commandy Dreadhorde to. So like it's not going to be super easy for Pavel to just bring back everything again. It's going to exile Pavel's Wildgrowth Walker. Notably, Shimon can use the Hostage Taker trick again when he just steals a creature that he owns, which makes the Hostage Taker an actually pretty strong blocker. So I believe that he's deciding between Jade Light Ranger and Wildgrowth Walker.
He did steal the Jade Light and replace it immediately. Yes. To reveal a Branch Walker of the top and a Jade Light Ranger of the top, both landing in the bin.
Putting more Explorer creatures in the graveyard. It's kind of scary because Pavel is still left with the Wildgrowth Walker, so that means that he can, if he gets another Commandy Dreadhorde, or if he has one in his hand already, he gets to cast it on those Explorer creatures and get those under his control. To pressure Vadro through the Teferi emblem.
And that would get the Wildgrowth Walker to a really scary life total, power and toughness stats. So, a Narset whiffed.
A Wildgrowth Walker of humongous proportions. There's a single Tamio. No, actually see 2 Tamios. Pavel can also set up playing a Tamio, getting back Commandy Dreadhorde, then replaying it. the next turn.
The Fairy bounced the Jade Light Ranger.
It's pretty aggressive Assassin's Trophy, targeting that hostage taker, just trying to put maximum pressure on Shimon.
Look, there's a tree in the swamp art.
Oh, that's super confusing. It is a fairly dark one, so I think it's okay. There are some really old swamps that just picture a bog of some sort, like some, watery stuff, watery terrain. Those are really confusing to me because
Owner is not the same as controller, so
yeah.
there's the confusion.
But those old swamps are actually really similar to islands, and I frequently confuse them when they are played alongside each other.
So Shimon takes 8, goes down to 3 life. That is a tough spot.
Yeah. Given that life total actually makes you unable to cast spells properly, your biggest comeback spell in Command the Dreadhorn. I believe Pavel will try to bring back a spell with Tamio, potentially Command the Dreadhorde just to have it ready for the next turn. Although choosing between different options too.
Command the Dreadhorde of the top, that's a stinker.
Yeah, it's kind of too late for that.
And Vadra will scoop them up, so Pavel manages to pick up the game number 2 through the Teferi emblem. Although it has to be noted that Vadra was on back foot since the first Command the Dreadhorde resolved, so that was a difficult game. But we still have 20 minutes left on the clock, so
yeah, the biggest turn was the moment where Vadra didn't have a Command the Dreadhorde himself. Had he been able to respond with one immediately over just Teferi embleming, the game would be actually close, potentially even favoring Shimon. As it was, it did.
That's us. Hi.
What was also interesting, like emblemming your Teferi with the other spell is a play that comes up quite often, but the decks are very powerful nowadays. They're actually able to beat that emblem somewhat reliably, at least this Command the Dreadhorde deck. Your everyday simple mid-range deck would not necessarily be able to defeat that combination of cards. Firing off the emblem exiling a permanent per turn. I was playing a Super French variant that was trying to utilize Nicol Bolas Dragon God with the other spell main deck to try to get to this powerful Planeswalker's ultimate. That combination is more reliable than the Teferi emblem, given that Nicol Bolas' emblem literally says you win the game unless your opponent controls a legendary creature or Planeswalker. The Planeswalker clause is fairly easily met, given that you just destroyed all of them with the other spell. Legendary creatures are not too common nowadays.
Yeah, there aren't that many legendary creatures running around in standard. I saw...
You have to be wary of your opponent maybe having a or the Massacre Girl in
Yeah,
play.
I saw a person playing Tomic.
Oh yeah, or Tomic.
Trying to prevent the land destruction.
No, I think the person playing Toming was mostly just trying to attack for 2 flank points of damages.
Also, that is possible.
Albeit it's not necessarily. We are not necessarily sure that that was the truth. It's possible that that person had different plans.
Yeah, but it's interesting that there aren't that many legendary creatures running around in standard right now, given how many we 2-3-4-2 is broken totally. Given how many legendary creatures were introduced in Dominaria, well,
The Planeswalkers are taking the spotlight
Yeah.
for now.
exactly, with War of the Spark standard. Okay, so we are going to have the game 3 going on in a short while. In the meantime, I will remind you that the broadcast of Paprika's Open 9 is brought to you by Card Market, MTG Spot, Ultimate Guard, Okie Dokie Dice, SPC Gear, Chrum.com, Hobbit.eu, Świat Kawy i Herbaty, and Psychotog.pl. So thank you guys. Thank you for all the support and all the cool stuff that we got from you to give our players as rewards. Paweł not happy with his hand. He's going to mulligan.
Vadro kept a 7-card hand. I would believe that keeping a 7-card hand on the play generally would favor you in this matchup, given that being on the play is like generally favorable. Because then you can get to command the Dreadhorde quicker. While sideboarding, I think I have seen players cutting the Paradise Druid, so I'm not entirely sure if that was the case.
I don't think they play Paradise Druids.
Am I mistaken?
Oh no, Paweł does play 3 Paradise Druid, but I think that Vadro has...
Yeah, it seems like Vadro skips them entirely
Yeah.
in favor of some early interaction spells.
Yes. But Paweł does have 3 in his deck.
I would believe that Paradise Druid is a card that's kind of desirable here, accelerating your mana to get there earlier. Of course, it's not as simple. It's not play command the Dreadhorde, win the game. We've seen that Paweł has one in his hand, so he kept it. Shuran has no turn 2 play, no black mana. Paweł has a Paradise Druid to regain the tempo lost from being on the draw.
Interplanar Beacon will fix the mana when it comes to Planeswalkers. There are a couple in Szymon's hand. He could play it
notably the Fairy Time Raveler, matching up poorly versus Paradise Druid. Had it been able to bounce it, it would be incredible for Szymon. Because it is not able to bounce it, it's not incredible. The Paradise Druid is going to survive and use its mana producing ability or attack the Planeswalker.
Interestingly, Szymon decides that the draw is more important than...
He still wants to cycle that to dig deeper into his deck. If you could say that very potentially considers Paweł attacking his Teferi down with his Paradise Druid a success, because that opens up the opportunity to bounce/kill that creature. Szymon's hand contains a Command Dreadhorde, a Tamio, and some cards that I didn't see because of his insanely quick shuffling techniques. Almost comparable to the famous Brian Kibler card flicks. For Paweł though, Paweł is considering his own moves here. He can play a Vraska Golari Queen, although is it even that powerful? Does not enable many new moves. Can try to preserve his Paradise Druid, but he's going to tap it. He's going to choose to tap it, although begrudgingly.
So Vraska hits the table. Let's see what he does with it. Oh, it goes up. Doesn't sacrifice anything.
That actually makes a lot of sense, since that Teferi is not doing anything during this turn cycle, so it makes sense to keep your Vraska up. There's even no Elder Spell possibility to get banished. Vajra would love to play Tamio, but given that he's on the back foot mana-wise, he's going to take the Paradise Druid hostage.
And Hostage Taker is out of range from Vraska's minus ability,
Yes, yes.
so
It's
it's
not
pretty
gonna
safe. Unless it gets bounced or killed by other means.
Yeah, Pavel has a Teferi Time Raveler. Gets to bounce Shimon's Hostage Taker, regain his Paradise Druid, which is now hexproof. That was a
Yep.
pretty big swing. He decides to plus Vraska, sacrifice the Teferi, draw an extra card, doing all of the moves that make him hit land drops. Playing a black one, playing a black Lensa, he's able to play Command the Dreadhorde next turn, has if he deems necessary. Probably not, given the amount to which the given that the graveyards are not stuck players, there appears to be some confusion.
Yeah,
about the
Pavel
Vraskas.
sacrificed the Teferi to Vraska's +1, and he drew a card but did not gain a life. So,
Yeah, since the abilities need to be resolved fully, I believe the fix to that is to just
gain a life, warning for both players.
regain the life point for Pavel.
Yep.
This is really tough for Vajra. If Vajra just pluses Tamio, that potentially fills up the graveyard. I didn't hear what he named, but he will play
Neither
Wildgrowth
did
Walker.
Okay, so now he will play a land.
Yeah, well, that means that there's a Wildgrowth Walker on the in the graveyard. Still not juicy enough for a Commanding Dreadhorde, but this game is starting to get interesting. If Vajra untaps, he can plus Tamio, fill the graveyard more. If he hits well, he can cast Commanding Dreadhorde for some nice value. Because I believe there's a Commanding Dreadhorde in his hand anyways already.
What I love doing in these mirrors is when you have Teferi Plus active, when the opponent goes for Commanded Dreadhorde, you command in response, and that's just feels so dirty.
Yeah, that sounds pretty strong. A pretty aggressive move, sacrificing a land from Pavel. You know what would be really interesting? A
Game decided by Paradise Druid attacking and killing Vadro because of Vraska's emblem.
yeah, that I wanted to say that an Elder Spell would have been pretty interesting. Elder Spell killing both of Shimon's Planeswalkers, ultimating Vraska Golari Queen, ultimating her.
Vadro has an Assassin's Trophy that's just a straight up kill spell. Pavel is going to take the chance to shuffle up, because why not? Who doesn't love shuffling?
He did mulligans. Not sure if he's cried. Like, you know, there are some circumstances where, like, now you would actually want to draw your bottom card, so that actually makes it a better play to shuffle your deck.
Vadro picking up the Assassin's Trophy once more with the Tamio ability.
That's a pretty smart move.
Stone raining the opponent. Branchwalker revealing a Temple Garden. That is really cool.
Yeah, he's never going to be able to cast a Command the Dreadhorde. Again, if Vadro keeps stone raining Pavel, which should probably be good enough to for Shimon to gain enough advantage. So sacrificing that land with Vraska was kind of a aggressive move from Pavel. it enabled that play from Szymon. I guess he could have went for destroying 2 lands anyways, leaving the Vraska in play. Well, that's pretty rough, because then you die if your Merfolk Branchwalker gets dealt with Vraska ultimates and Paradise Druid gets to you. Given that Paradise Druid has Hexproof, as long as it's untapped, it's was not a line of play that Szymon was probably too keen on. So I understand going for the Assassin's Trophy on the Golgari Queen first.
Yes, Szymon is indeed very experienced with the deck. He's been testing it for like a week straight before the MCQ weekend. He's played it yesterday to a 7-2 finish, so just barely missed on the top 128. So he is really good with it, and we can see that right now. So Vraska went after Teferi.
So does Szymon have a Commandy Dreadhorde in his graveyard to try to clear the graveyards?
I don't know if he does.
First he attacks a Vraska Golgari Queen. Paweł is not going to block with this Paradise Druid because he values mana sources a lot here. Takes an Assassin's Trophy, destroys a black-green land. Paweł shuffles his deck once more because he likes to perform
Game actions.
hand actions.
Hand actions. Nice.
Actions, I don't know.
Szymon will follow it up probably with another Tamiyo. At this point it's brutal. I bet he's going to pick up the Assassin's Trophy once more.
Not need for doing that this turn, since you can plus Tamiyo and then use her next turn, given that she's going to get Moss take 2 damage from the Paradise Druid. She's going to die to the other spell. So be it. If you can have 8 mana next turn. I'm not entirely sure if Szymon has the 7th or even the 8th land set up. I think he named Command the Dreadhorde.
He did.
Flipped a bunch of permanents, including an extra
Pretty
wild
juicy ones.
Plays the 7th land. So like the ideal line of play is to play the 8th land, Command the Dreadhorde, get back
Assassin's
Trophy, destroy an extra land for Paweł, and destroy Paweł subsequently.
Okay, so let's see if there is a command. Yeah, there is a commanded Dreadhorde in hand for Vadro.
Yep.
And there is the 8th land.
The 8th land makes it pretty easy.
So let's see. Pick up the Atrophy.
Nie mogłeś zagrać na reset. Nie.
Oh yeah, players are realizing that there was actually a miscast happening.
Znaczy nie miałeś tego. Nie, to wygląda.
Because it is true that you actually cannot cast Narset Party of Veils with a Godless Shrine and 2 beacons. That is because beacons produce mana, 2 mana of 2 different colors. And that mana can only be spent on playing Planeswalker, so you cannot filter it further with the second beacon. It is somewhat of a intuitive
Yes.
interaction, but it is not possible to cast Narset without taking shock damage from the breeding pool, or without tapping the Paradise Druid. So there's going to be a judge call happening here, and we will see a fix there. You know, Piotr, you talked about how experienced Padro is. It escaped our eyes, this slight misstep on Pavel's side. But
He caught it.
he got it. It took a while for him, but he focused really hard, and he realized that there was a mishap.
Także zagrałem szoka.
W dużym skrócie będzie wszystko to samo, tylko musisz inaczej zapłacić manę.
Tak, no to zagrał wtedy najpierw jeden punkt, płacąc 2 życia, jak tak mówię.
Czyli w dużym skrócie stracisz 2 życia i wszystko jest dobrze.
Tak.
Czyli masz 26.
Wszystko zgadza.
26 po sekcji
In the end, the fix appears to be
Pretty
to
easy.
rewind that. Had to keep things simpler. We just rewind to a point where player plays an untapped shockland, which in fact allows him to play that plane shocker. Actually, the way Pavel tapped steel, no, it actually does allow. Yeah, it is fine. It is fine. You can tap your beacon for colorless and then use the second one to make second blue, produce second blue.
And Commander Dreadhorde,
Yep.
just
So-
to further bully Pavel.
You know, bullying has somewhat of a negative connotation.
I
but
mean, They are going to get time
Shimon-
extension, so
Shimon is just performing, executing the game plan of his decks. No, not that much of a bully. 2 Wagrafokers getting a bunch of life points back. Wagrafoker plus Jailer Ranger that gains 12 life back. Also gains a lot of Planeswalkers back on the battlefield for Shimon.
So now we were going to leave the disdainful stroke on top.
Yeah.
Just to get extra counters, I guess.
Well, you can also leave up the stroke with your Teferi.
Yep. Destroy the Narset with
Because
Vraska.
Teferi Hero of Dominaria can draw a card and you can untap 2 lands,
Yes.
keep up a counter spell up, but that's only true if
you have blue
Vajra
mana.
has blue mana, but actually all the blue mana that he has comes in form of interplanar beacons, which were enough for him to cast Tamios and Teferis across throughout this game, but they are not casting this disdainful stroke.
And a Branch Walker getting frisky, attacking for 2 points of damage.
Is that really all that frisky?
Witek, oni mają takie minuty?
Więcej mówiłeś.
Na starcie, no i potem 2 rzeczkoły mieliśmy. Jeden teraz, wcześniej z życiem.
Now we are getting information how much time they get extra.
Oh, there's actually a breeding pool there. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
He has blue mana.
They get 8 minutes extra because of the preparations at the beginning and 2 judge calls that happened, so no worries there. The match is gonna finish on time. So the players will not pick up any draws, which are really undesirable in any tournament of Magic the Gathering, except in the final rounds when you intentionally do that.
Pretty hopeless situation, so like Pavel is passing a Wagrafoker. Next turn, Vajra can get an extra Assassin's Trophy to bully an extra land. At this point, I will also join you in the act of calling that bullying. Of course, just jokingly, because it's not actual real-life bullying.
Another interplanar beacon for Pavel. Now, what do you need to... I mean, at this point I think you just jam both creatures in and not even care for the Teferi. What do you get back? Assassin's Trophy,
Yeah,
of
just
course.
get Assassin's Trophy again.
And get the last colored source, except for Paradise Druid.
Still keeping
Mm-hmm.
Pavel off of Commanding Dread Hoarding.
Mm-hmm. Vraska goes up, sacrifices a forest. Don't know what is more unfair, Dreadhorde or Nexus. I don't know if I would call Dreadhorde unfair at all.
Well, there's somewhat of... This is a pretty powerful effect.
It's a powerful
like
effect.
Not up to the scale of the things that other
Mm-hmm.
cards are doing, given that the drawback is mostly mitigated by Wildgrowth Walker
But you
being
need some
reanimated a
setup.
lot of time. But yeah, you do need life up front, so it changes up things a lot, and there's counterplay to that.
Mhm.
Some off-screen explore monsters attacking Pavel and Teferi.
So I think that Shimon has had this game in the bag for a long time.
Yeah, just trying to make sure not to
Yeah.
not to die somehow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
So-
a pretty neat way to accelerate your clock. Get back the Jailite Ranger to accelerate 3 Wildgrowth Walkers that are on the
Yeah.
battlefield now. So a smart play by Vadra.
18 extra life points for him as well.
1 bajillion life points for Shimon.
And now this Dread Horde is going to pretty easily clean up house. 4 minutes left. I think we can safely assume that it's gonna end next turn or turn after that.
And after Shimon's adapting 2 lands with his Hero of Dominator ability.
And let's see what Pavel can do with
Possibly.
his 3 basically colorless lands. And a Paradise Druid.
My guess is not much.
Doesn't seem like it.
So Metal Grove not going to enter the battlefield untapped even.
Overgrown
Overgrown
Tomb
Tomb,
does.
will.
Will lose 2 life.
Notably, Pavel can actually now get to 6 mana to cast Commanding Dreadhorde, but he has seen the stroke, which Vadra will probably just keep in his hand to try to insulate himself from a command.
Yeah, he will not pull the trigger on this Vraska.
You see Pavel expressing him being unsure what to do with his powerful Planeswalker. The word powerful might not be the most fitting. Kills the Wildgrowth Walker,
The biggest one, yep.
increases the clock.
Okay, so let's see what happens next. I guess pretty powerful stuff. There is another commanded Dread Horde. Since Shimon is at a very high life total, he can just clear out the graveyards once more.
True. An Elder Spell is another thing that
Oh yeah,
he can do, embleming his Teferi Hero of Dominaria.
then drawing a card with Veraska.
True. Exiling even more lands of
Yeah,
Pavel.
because why not? Paradise Druid still holding down the fort.
Not sure about holding.
Well, it's been there since turn 2.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it has never been used throughout the entire game. Played on turn 2, and then
That is a play that he could have taken, yes.
not using it. It's also true that Vajra did not use Vraska this turn, which was actually a viable line of play.
Yes.
Embleming it would be lethal on the spot.
Mam swojego. Nawet twojego.
They are discussing which Teferi he wants, either if he wants Pavel's Teferi or his own. So it's fun to play with food. Yeah, it certainly feels like it now.
Oh yeah, he was pretty funny. Vajra was trying to like just perform game actions ASAP to not draw this game, and like actually it's taking a while. And we're going to move to the extra turns now.
Yes. So this
Like
is turn
at-
0.
At the end, he decided to not reanimate anything else besides the very hero of Dominaria, but it's kind of interesting because are there any extra creatures that he could have gotten to increase his clock?
Turn 1 goes to Pavel. He draws a
He's going-
Tameo.
He has enough creatures to
I think he
win
does.
through 2 turns, so it's fine. But
Shimon untaps. 5 extra turns.
yeah,
That's
players
always
check,
5
players
extra
check
turns.
5 extra turns. As in, you know, they take 5 extra turns total. So that means that both players have to have either 2 or 3 extra turns each. So
And Pavel extends the hand, and Shimon will pick up the win in a very long, very drawn-out match that played on many different levels.
was
Oh.
actually like it was not all that drawn out. Like what extended it was the mechanical part of the of resolving the cards. Like you could have seen how much time did resolving Commanded Dreadhorde took.
Yeah.
Like, you know, picking from so many paraments and like sifting through both graveyards. That actually takes a while.
Okay, so Shimon will improve to 3-0. I guess that was one of the last matches of this round. So we will take a very short break and probably come back with round 4 very soon. So stay tuned, and we will see you in a minute.